Stopping to take a minute for yourself may be on the tipping end of your schedule. Putting off your self-care activities for later in the week, later in the month, later in the year. Whatever later is, or whenever later is. Self-care should be on the top of your to-do list. It's an important time to charge your physical and mental health. So as you start your self-care journey today with your Jamaica Magazine family, we're taking a doctor's visit and looking into some healthy food ideas. Welcome to today's show. I'm Theodore Henry. Let's start this journey right now.
The Forestry Department is leading the implementation of the National Tree Planting Initiative, which seeks to plant 3 million trees in 3 years, one for each Jamaican plus a little extra for good measure. So I'm inviting each Jamaican to visit our nurseries across the island and collect your tree seedling and make your mark towards this great goal for Jamaica.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, March 10. Public health nurse Marcia Thomas Yetman is the first Jamaican to receive the COVID-19 vaccine on the island. Mrs. Yetman was among a group of 40 persons to be inoculated at Good Samaritan Inn earlier today.
This vaccine is safe. Thousands and thousands of people across the world have been vaccinated with this vaccine. And they're still alive, they're still doing well, and complications are minimal based on what we have been told from studies done. And so I would encourage persons to sign up and get your vaccines as soon as it's available to you.
I am recommending all Jamaicans, especially like me, the vulnerable, to be vaccinated. I'm begging you.
It was an awesome experience. The organization here is fantastic. Keeping also with all of the protocols, so the social distancing, the mask, and of course the sanitizing. The shot does not hurt. Little burn does not hurt, no more than any other vaccine. And it's the start of freedom.
It is a historic day, and it represents a major shift in the approach now that vaccines are available. And we believe could signal the beginning of the end. As long as we have the supplies and the people are willing to take the vaccine, the beginning of the end for any significant threat that this COVID-19 virus represents.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness's vaccine program was rolled out today at 70 sites across its 4 regional health authorities. By the end of today, 3,280 public health workers are expected to have received the first doses of vaccines. The program continues tomorrow with 3,080 persons. Over the next 3 weeks, more than 47,000 persons will receive the COVID-19 shots. In addition to public health workers, persons in the 60 and older age group and members of the Jamaica Constabulary and Jamaica Defense Forces will receive their first of 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's expected that by May this year, the government would have acquired a total of 974,800 vaccines. In the meantime, persons who disobey the COVID-19 containment measures stipulated in the Disaster Risk Management Act will soon be ticketed. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says work is far advanced to have the legislation introduced as part of measures to step up enforcement.
The whole ticketing process is now at our legislative committee, which is the penultimate stage before it reaches Parliament. So we are on track, but there are other measures which will require legislation as well, which we are contemplating. Is not only against the individual not wearing a mask, which may prove difficult in certain circumstances, but really there needs to be greater enforcement against institutions, meaning, business places and other such places where persons gather to transact business or for social interaction.
In other news, government has maintained its no new tax measure for the 2021-2022 financial year. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says increasing taxes at this time in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic would run counter to the state's economic recovery objectives. He was opening the budget debate in Gordon House on Tuesday.
This is the 6th consecutive fiscal year where on a net basis we have not raised taxes. This is the 4th consecutive fiscal year where there will be absolutely no new taxes.
Minister Clark says strong and prudent policy decisions by the government have provided the framework being used to manage the affairs of the country, especially the increased expenditures caused by COVID-19. Dr. Clark says the $60 billion Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine SERVE program for Jamaica will aid recovery efforts during the upcoming fiscal year.
We will pursue the responsible path. We will prioritize our expenditure to achieve social and economic recovery in the quickest possible time.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance has announced that the state will be waiving the Customs Administrative Fee, CAF, for permanent export of goods valuing less than or equal to $500. The current fee is a standard 3,000 Jamaican dollars per export customs declaration. Minister Clark says the move is part of government's economic recovery efforts. He says foreign exchange earnings have reached an all-time low, and the waiver will allow small e-commerce businesses more room to export small value shipments while remaining competitive.
When a shipment has a value of $5,000 and the government levies a CAF of $3,000, that shipment becomes uncompetitive as the CAF is 60% of the value of the shipment. And the e-commerce, where anybody can stay anywhere in the world and order what they want, is inhibited. Jamaica cannot be competitive in exports with this setup.
Effective April 1, students applying for loans from the Student Loan Bureau will require only one guarantor. Minister of Finance Dr. Nigel Clark says this is to increase accessibility for lower-income families who have difficulty finding two guarantors in order to qualify for student loans.
It is in the public interest that the goal of accessibility be balanced by the goal of sustainability. If we have accessibility but no sustainability, we're not thinking about tomorrow.
Minister Clark was opening the budget debate for the 2021-2022 fiscal year in Parliament Tuesday. He says this year, 14,000 students applied for loans, a 5% increase over last year's application. Of that amount, 98% were approved. And finally, May 26 is the new date for the administration of the Grade 6 Primary Exit Profile PEP Ability Test. The previous date was March 25. Education Minister Fable Williams made the disclosure at this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. She says grade 6 students will only sit the ability test this year. The performance task and curriculum-based tests will not be administered.
We will use the same methodology we did last year. We will combine the results of the ability test to be taken on Wednesday, May 26, 2021, with the results of the grade 4 performance task exams in language arts and mathematics that the current grade 6 students would have sat in 2019.
She adds that grade 6 curriculum not covered during the academic year will be done at the secondary level at grade 7.
This would require, however, that the number of school days be increased. The technical staff is preparing a retention document to lay out what criteria we use to determine which students are retained in their current class. Once that is prepared, we will consult with our stakeholders, and of course, this will be communicated to all Jamaicans.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
It is the commitment of this government, in spite of all the challenges that we face, that this decade must be the decade of growth for Jamaica.
And the lead ministry in the Andrew Holness-led administration has a laser-like focus on that goal. With a $13.2 billion allocation in the 2021-2022 financial year, the Office of the Prime Minister is making concrete steps to drive growth on the island. $7.32 billion has been set aside to cover operational expenses within the ministry, while $5.87 billion will support capital projects. The Registrar General's Department, the Jamaica Information Service, Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica, as well as the Electoral Office and the Electoral Commission of Jamaica will be offsetting some of their operational costs this financial year.
We must get it right, as we cannot allow violence to continue to destroy our children, families, communities, and the overall quality of life that Jamaicans aspire to.
The 2-year-old National Commission on Violence Prevention is being funded to the tune of $59.3 million. The money will also support the work of the Jamaica House Fellowship Program. $17.4 million has been set aside to support the National Registration Unit's work on the establishment of the National Identification System.
Public sector transformation is so central to the agenda of this government.
So much so that the Office of the Prime Minister has earmarked $508.26 million to achieve agility in public sector services.
We are committed to putting in place the legislative, technological, and independent oversight mechanisms to ensure the rights of persons are respected and protected.
The commitment is reflected in the $2.3 billion set aside for the implementation of the National Identification System, NIDS. This economic growth project assumes the lion's share of the Office of the Prime Minister's $5.87 billion capital budget. Priority focus is being placed on the establishment of the public key infrastructure, digitization of birth certificates, upgrading of production centers and production sites, as well as the completion of the framework for the Registrar General's Department.
I think that if we're going to truly deal with climate change, we must invest in our infrastructure.
That drive is being bolstered by the $1.27 billion injection into the Jamaica Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. Works to be completed under the project include the Port Royal Coastal Revetment and fire stations in Montego Bay, Port Maria, and Yallas.
We have removed zinc fences, which would be the sign of a poor community. We have repaired several kilometers of roadways. We have cleared drains. We have regular waste collection in the area. We have brought in the citizenry in terms of giving them access to critical services and amenities.
That work will continue under Phase 2 of the Integrated Community Development Project and the Jamaica Integrated Community Development Project. These infrastructure projects will include upgrades to roads, water, sewerage, and drainage in several communities. $200 million will be spent in Canaan Heights, Clarendon, Retirement in St. James, and Steertown in St. Anne. And $726.2 million will go towards infrastructure upgrades in Pink and Chestnut Lane, Treadlight, Augustown, and Salt Spring. The funds will also cover zinc fence removal and sidewalk rehabilitation in Greenwich and Augustown, as well as improving the environment at the Hope Valley Experimental and Augustown schools. Other infrastructure programs will be targeted under the $684.4 million Basic Needs Trust Fund.
The second phase of the READY initiative represents a renewed focus on improving economies of scale for small and medium-sized enterprises involved in agriculture and community tourism, and mainstreaming climate resilience while enhancing market access for these businesses.
And continued investments are being made in Jamaica's burgeoning animation industry. $207.5 million is being spent on giving scholarships to 80 animators, provide internship for 300 digitization trainees, and execute the hosting of Kingston 4 Animation Festival.
This budget is not just giving back to a certain class of people. This budget is providing something for everyone in Jamaica.
I look after it tomorrow. Does that statement sound familiar? Sometimes the body undergoes experiences that we often neglect, and sometimes a stomach cramp is not just a cramp. As we observe Endometriosis Awareness Month, we want to share with you a bit more on this and just why it deserves the attention that we're giving it today.
I was always so miserable during my period, for as long as I can remember. The pain was so severe. I remember not having an appetite, nauseous. It was difficult to stand. It felt like a monthly interruption of my life. It continued for years, an endless cycle of suffering. I had no idea what was wrong with me. Then I was diagnosed with endometriosis.
Endometriosis is a chronic, painful condition of women in their reproductive years. So the condition occurs when the tissue that is normally inside the womb, called the endometrium, gets on the outside. This organ here is the uterus, or the womb, and within it is the endometrium. This is the tissue that is normally shed each month when you have a menstrual flow or a period. And it behaves normally when it flows and you have a period. However, if this tissue flows backwards through the fallopian tube, the structure here, it can land on the ovary, this white structure here, and form endometriotic cysts called endometriomas. It can run down the back of the womb and form deposits here, which can cause pain. The most common symptoms are very painful periods. You may also have infertility and pain during intercourse. Now, if the endometriotic deposits end up in other places, for example, endometriosis has been found in almost every tissue in the body. So it can be in the eye, so rarely. You may have intermittent blindness. It can be in the lung, so you can have shortness of breath, symptoms of a collapsed lung. In the brain, you can have seizures. To diagnose endometriosis, we start with a history, the history of the painful periods. For those patients, we'll ideally do an abdominal and a pelvic examination. The gold standard test is a surgical procedure called laparoscopy. That's where we use a camera, which is inserted in through just below the belly button or the umbilicus, and using powerful lighting sources and optics, we're able to look and examine the pelvis, and then we can see the endometriotic deposits.
My journey with endometriosis began about 7 to 8 years ago when I was trying to get pregnant and couldn't figure out why. Went to the doctor, and after doing several tests, he asked about endometriosis. I'd never heard of it. And he said, well, we do a non-invasive surgery, which is a laparoscopic. They go in through the navel.
By this, we use a camera, as I said, and we use a set of surgical instruments which allow us to enter the abdomen through very small incisions, and we're able to locate the deposits, and we try to excise them or remove them from the pelvis in its entirety.
So I did the surgery, and unfortunately I had what was called a spontaneous abortion. That didn't hold. Tried again a few months later, and I got pregnant. I went to about 5 months, and unfortunately the baby died in vitro. I have not been able to ever get pregnant again.
After making a diagnosis, the mainstay of treatment is going to be dependent on your stage of the disease. So there are medical treatments, so we can use painkillers, oral contraceptive pills, surgical techniques. If you are having debilitating pain, if you're missing school, if you're missing work, then that's not normal and you need to seek the appropriate help. There are specialists who are well trained, both in terms of picking up the symptoms and making the diagnosis and in terms of treatment. And the earlier you're treated, the better the outcome is likely to be.
I think every woman should get checked because we've grown up to hear that once you have a bad period, it's a norm. Unfortunately for those of us who have it. It's not the norm. I started following Shauna Fuller's story and finding out how she found out that she had it. And I offered my services. I said, I want to spread the word. I volunteered. They have a support group. I went there and met with others. And I also got involved in the march. If you find out you have it, join the Base Foundation. Be a support for somebody. There's nothing better than just that encouraging word. And just know that there's somebody out there who understands.
I can only encourage our women, if any of these symptoms seem to be occurring to you, seek appropriate help through your local obstetrician gynecologist and be referred to a specialist.
If I knew then what I know now, that it had a name, that I wasn't alone, now that you know, don't suffer in silence.
Endometriosis affects 1 in every 10 woman and girl worldwide. In Jamaica, over 10,000 women are affected by the disease. Many are not aware that they have it.
Agriculture and fisheries is big business. Get formalized this year. Be among 100 farmers and fisheries producers who will benefit from a developmental project funded by the International Labour Organization and implemented by the Government of Jamaica. Whether you're male or female, we want to help you. Young farmers, there's a special place for you too. Apply at any RADA or JBDC office island-wide and jbdc.net. Deadline March 22. Agriculture and fisheries is big business.
So from taking care of the female body to what we choose to put inside all our bodies, it's easy to make a lasting link between your physical health and your self-care routine. So our first self-care routine for good physical health is managing what you eat and checking your food calories and labels. Here's a bit more help on how to do just that.
Your body needs energy, and we call this our daily requirements of calories. And for Jamaican men, it's about 2,100. For Jamaican women, it's about 1,900 calories per day. The calorie is just a unit of energy to say how much energy you need to get around your daily activities and so on. If you're more active and you're not in a desk job, then you're going to burn more calories. If you go to work, when you get up in the morning, you sit in a car and you go to work, you sit at a desk all day, and then lunchtime come, you order and they deliver the food to you, and then you eat that and you go back and sit again, and then you sit in a bus or a car and you go home. So you're sitting all day, you're not doing much, versus somebody who's on the road and they're walking around or they're standing all day like the teachers and nurses and so on. Then you'll realize the difference in how much energy you will need. And so if you are more active, you should be eating a little bit more. But the problem is that everybody is eating as if they're working in sugarcane fields, chopping cane all day. And this is the problem. So we consume more calories than we are burning off. And every day if we keep on consuming calories, you need 3,500 calories to make 1 pound of fat. One soda, if you look on the serving size for these things, these juices and so on, you'll think that, oh, it's just 110 calories. But how many servings come in that container? About 3 or 2.5. So you can easily drink 300 calories like that. And if you do that 5 times for the day, that's 1,500 calories. You almost don't need to eat anything else for the rest of the day. So the excess calories come in the body, and then the body begins to store them as fat. And then you put on more weight and more weight. You have to watch the pastries and the breads and all of these things that people, even when they're vegetarian, they still have a lot of these little snacks and so on. These things are full of calories. You know that one of the cream crackers is about 450 calories. Water crackers is about 500. Yeah, nobody don't want to hear. I never want to believe it either. But this is what you get, the packs that you get, and a lot of people eat them with butter, right? So can you imagine how many calories you're putting in your body with one little snack? And you don't talk about the tea yet with the milk, the condensed milk and the sugar that you have to have that with. All of these things, they add up without you even knowing.
The ingredients label will go from the most to the least in the product. So if the product is making a claim, look at where that claim is. If it is 1, 2, or 3, because if it falls less than that, you're really not getting value for your money, right, in terms of content. The nutrition facts. One of the first things you're going to look at is the servings per container, and this says 2.5, which means it's 2.5 servings in the container. You are not supposed to drink it, you must share it, right? And then you're going to look at your calories. It says 90 calories, but it's 90 calories per serving, and it's 2.5 servings. So it's 2.5 times 90, which comes out to about 225. And then you come down and you look at your sugar, and it's 22 grams of sugar, but it's per serving. So the entire container is 2.5 times 22, which works out to about 55, 56 if my maths is right. And there's 4 grams equal 1 teaspoon, so you end up with about roughly 14 teaspoons of sugar. And that is, you use this template for all the products that have nutritional facts on them. This is 14 teaspoons of sugar, and the American Heart Association recommends that for an adult male, you're supposed to consume 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. For an adult female, it is 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day. And for a child, it's less than 6 teaspoons per day. And a child here, we're talking about from 2 to 18 years old. Don't look at a container and judge it by the size alone. It's very important to read the label so you know exactly. And look at it. 220 calories. For parents, we're asking them, to be very mindful of how much sugar they're giving their kids, right? Because it impacts upon their health in the long term.
We try to provide information to parents and guardians, teachers, anyone about the alternatives to these sugary drinks, because really you don't need them in your diet. You can get enough sugar that you need from the foods that you eat, the carbohydrates, which are converted to sugars in your body, which give you energy. So some of the alternatives are, of course, water. It's the best one, but there's also fresh fruit juices. So blending your own juices without adding sugar, and you'll have the natural sugars and fiber from the fruits. There's coconut water. It should be, you should actually drink this in moderation because it does have quite a high sugar content, but it is a good alternative. For the children, freezing the juices into popsicles or ice cubes so that it's more interesting for them to drink, as well as doing infused water. So infused water is it's a process where you cut up your favorite fruit or vegetable or even mint leaves or aloe. You place it in water overnight so that the vitamins, the minerals, all the goodness from the fruits and vegetables are infused into the water, and you can have that. It's not sugar sweetened, and it gives you the vitamins and minerals that you need throughout the day. And then for children, there's unsweetened milk. So not flavored milks like the chocolate milks, but unsweetened milk doesn't have a high sugar content, and it also will give the children the calcium that they need for their growing bodies as well.
There is much more to share, and that's why we're coming back to you tomorrow with more information in a new Jamaica magazine. Until then, check out our YouTube channel, and since you'll already be online, visit our website at www.jis.gov.jm and follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages if you haven't already done so. From all of us here to all of you there, I'm Theodore Henry. See you real soon.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.